My name is Ernest Lamoth. I'm a reporter for the Southland Journal.
And I'm Rebecca Glenberg. I'm an attorney for the ACLU of Illinois.
Rebecca, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We want to talk about a couple of issues of people having to know their rights that they may not know. First, we're going to talk a little about knowing your rights when it comes to public meetings, whether that's residents attending it or a journalist. Can you talk a little bit about what are some of the rights they have at those meetings?
Well, everyone should have the right to attend a public meeting. If people behave in a disruptive way or interrupt others while speaking, those are activities that could get you kicked out of a meeting, and the public body may be within its rights to do that if you are truly being disruptive. But if you are engaged in public comment at a public meeting, the fact that you express a very strong opinion or that you criticize your government or members of the public body should not be grounds for cutting you off or booting you from the meeting or anything like that. So, your rights are very well defined and they're mostly within that public comment period. But, there are things that you can do. It should only be your conduct that would incur any consequences or any discipline or other, other results from the board or the public body itself.
And Rebecca, what rights do journalists have when it comes to covering these different events at a public meeting?
So journalists have the same right as any member of the public to attend a meeting. They have the right to take notes. They have, by statute, the right to record meetings. And obviously to report out anything that is said at a public meeting. So, journalists should not be barred from a public meeting merely because they are journalists or because they've said things that are critical of the public body in the past.
I know you have a passion, obviously, for free speech as well. Can you talk a little bit about some of the rights that people in general have about free speech?
Sure. I mean, I'll talk a little bit about the right to protest, since that is really an important right that seems to be a little wobbly at the moment in various places. People have the right to protest in such a way that they do not, block pedestrian or vehicular traffic unduly and don't cause property damage and so forth. But they do have the right to protest, and you need to look at your particular city or town or county ordinance to determine things like whether you need to look at those local ordinances to figure out whether you might need a permit to protest. Now, cities and counties can require permits for large gatherings or for gatherings that are going to block a public street, for example. They cannot require permits for a small group of people who are going to be on the sidewalk or in a plaza or other sort of public outdoor space where it's a small enough number that there's no potential to disrupt traffic or the operation of any government or business or anything like that. So there's a line between where you can and can't require a permit. And so, you need to take a look at those ordinances. You need to follow the ordinances unless they are so broad that they seem to be prohibitive. And that's where you can contact an organization like the ACLU. We can take a look at those ordinances and let you know whether we think maybe it needs to be challenged or revised.
And this might be an obvious question, but I kind of want to hear from you. Talk about the importance of the ACLU in general, its significance, as well as why it's important for people to know their rights in general.
Sure. Well, the ACLU nationally was founded in 1920 in the midst of a Red Scare. That is, lots of people who were believed to be communists, often immigrants, were being rounded up, being punished, even being deported. And so the ACLU was formed in that context to protect people's freedom of speech, to espouse various political ideas, and you know, all of the other civil liberties that we depend on in order to have a robust democracy. So in addition to freedom of speech, the ACLU protects the right to be free from discrimination on the basis of race, religion, sex, LGBTQ status, national origin and religion, so forth. It protects the right to vote, which is obviously somewhat endangered at the moment. It protects the rights of immigrants to due process and fair treatment in immigration proceedings and at the border. It protects the rights of people in prisons to be treated without undue cruelty and, you know, sufficient medical care and getting sufficient nutrition and so forth. And obviously I'm not naming every single right in the Constitution, but we really protect a broad range of issues related to civil rights and constitutional rights. And really, we're the biggest organization that sort of tackles all of these different issues. We have a national office, we have offices in each state, and so I am with the Illinois affiliate. I think probably the main reason why it's so important to know your rights and exercise your rights is that this is how we preserve democracy really broadly. You know, obviously the right to vote is crucial in a democracy, but so is the right to free speech, so that you can make your views known to your elected officials and you can persuade people to come to your side on various issues. And so is the rights of criminal defendants, for example, because you can't have a democracy where your justice system is biased in various ways, where the goal is always to incarcerate large numbers of people. Similar for people's rights to against you know, discrimination and unfair treatment and excessive force by police. In a democracy, you are not supposed to be living under that kind of oppression. And we know that in many ways, American democracy is not perfect under those measures. In fact, there are many places where we fall short. And so that's what our job is.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, Rebecca, that maybe I didn't ask?
Well, that was a pretty long speech. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah.